My name is Michiel. I am 4Pieces application specialist, and I will be telling you all about iC3D today. Let's dive straight in. This is what you can do with iC3D. iC3D is meant for virtual creation of 3D packagings. You can see that goes quite far. You have the metallic effect on the bottle caps, you have the liquids inside the bottles, you even have the glass and the ice cubes. You can do all that with iC3D. The major point here is that iC3D uses a technology called ray tracing. For those of you that might not be familiar with ray tracing, that means the rays of light from the light source are simulated as they bounce around and as they get changed of direction by the objects in the room. So the way glass interacts with light, the way liquids interact with light, the way metal interacts with light is all different. And to make this realistic image of the packaging, we have to recreate the way it looks perfectly. And iC3D is really strong in that regard. Why would you choose to go for digital 3D packaging design instead of using prototyping in the old-fashioned way? Well, it's probably cheaper than the old-fashioned prototyping workflow where you have to design your packaging, manufacture it, and then have a photo shoot for it, because the photographer, the time you spend in prototyping and manufacturing all counts toward the cost of that pack shot. While with iC3D, you just have to 3D model the packaging, put the design on there, you can adjust it as much as you want, and you can have your pack shot. So it might even be faster than for the old-fashioned way, because you have to prototype, you have to schedule a photo shoot, and you have to actually do the photo shoot and the editing afterwards. In iC3D, you have a really controlled environment where you can create your studio environment beforehand and keep using that setting for all your products. And you can have a really stable, consistent quality for all your pack shots, for all your products within the digital environment. There is also an extra feature. You can have an in-store shelving preview of your product. That means before you even manufactured the product, before you even finished the production, you can already see how your product will look in a shop next to your competitors on the shelves, and you can see how much attention it will draw. Who can use this as a solution? Well, it's a solution for brands and retailers, because they can see before going to production if the packaging they are designing will actually work well and will actually be the way they want it to be. It's also a solution for packaging designers, because they can, before manufacturing, already see what can be the problem points in the manufacturing of that packaging. And it's also a solution for packaging engineers and converters. Now, what's so special about iC3D? How does iC3D do this specifically? Well, they have these special patented modules called the shape modeler, with which you can design your own packaging from scratch in 3D without needing any special knowledge. In most applications, 3D modeling is a quite complicated process with specialized knowledge for being able to do this properly. With iC3D, it's fairly simple once you get the hang of it. It's really not that complicated. There is also the patented Smart Mesh and Smart Rep modules that allow for easy, flexible packagings, and there's the ray tracing. I also have another slide containing a lot of key features inside iC3D. I'm not going to go over them one by one, because that would be taking a lot of time. I'd rather show some of them in the program. But you can see some of the important ones here as well. Once again, the ray tracing, the direct link to Illustrator or the PDF import, the ability to import any standardized 3D structural files you already have. There is a lot of stuff iC3D can help you with here. Now, I've been saying packaging as if there is just one type of packaging. Of course, we all know that's not true. There is lots of different types of packaging. The thing is, iC3D can handle pretty much all of them. So we can handle bottles, cans, there's a carton module, there's a module for flexibles. There is even the possibility to use the point of sale materials and the shelving displays. So you can do pretty much all of it as long as you understand the application. the limitations the application has in some parts, and the best way to work with the software. Now, of course, showing a presentation is easy. I'd rather show you inside the application what's going on. Let's go to the application now. This is iC3D. This is the look you will have in the program. When you start the program for the first time, you will see this welcome screen. So this screen is here to guide you to the right windows from the get-go and the user interface. Now, there is also a new features tab here that shows you the latest release notes of the software. There's a getting started guide that helps you get started with each of the product types. And there is a link to the tips and technique videos, which also guide you with more specific items. I will close this. If you don't want to see this every time, you can click the do not show again checkbox. Now, my UI looks pretty empty. Everything you see here, the object editor, the special effects, the template library at the bottom, you can position this where you want it to be. This isn't static. It's actually a very open UI. You can go to the window tab and you can see all the tabs I have open on a certain place docked to my screen. You can move those docks to wherever you want them to be. You can open or close them the way you want them to be. That way, your iC3D user interface is always specifically tailored to what you use, what you need, and where you want it to be, which makes it a very user-friendly UI. I'll start by going to the bottom tabs here to the template library. The template library, you can see these items here. Let me open that up a little bit for you. There we go. These are all items to help you get started with modeling your own custom packaging. So you have the 2D spinner, you have the carton fold up, you have the gusseted bag or just like paper bag, the shelf visualizer. All of these, when you open them, have settings that allow you to edit the certain packaging in a certain way. And I'll show you one. So I'll open the pillow bag. It opened on my second screen. There we are. You can see this is the bag. I can choose the fill amount for the bag. I can say I want that base flap to be folded because it's not realistic. I want it to be filled heavily. So now everything is at the bottom. Change that. And you can obviously also change the size of the bag. Now it is wider. And that's how you get started with these templates. You have the same things for bottles, you have the same things for other types of bags, and then we have the shape modeler itself. The shape modeler allows you to create completely custom packaging. So you see, this is just a tube right now. Let's say I want the top to be shaped like a cog, and I want the bottom to be shaped squarely. Then you have this 3D model immediately. Of course, I can add more. If I want in the middle, I want there to be an oval somewhere, I can add that as well. And now we have this oval shape. You can create this. You can create any difficult or easy packaging type like this. So if I want this to be like a lid for a glue tube, you see I now have a lid for a glue tube or something along those lines. That's how easy it is to create a custom template here. Now I was just winging it with different shapes and with different sizes, but you have control over all of that. You can control with measurements, specifically how large you want the base to be, how high you want these to be apart, what you want the diameter of the cog to be. You can choose all that very specifically, which makes this a really accurate way of building your packaging up. We have two more libraries here. We have the model library. The model library already contains some defaultly made models. So these are just examples of what you can do with the software, with a few more that I put in here. So this is currently basically what iC3D gives you. You have categories, so it is the iC3D model library. But of course, you can generate your own libraries. You can create a library for a certain customer, and you can fill it with all the packagings you have created for that customer for easy access. Adding them to the scene is as simply as dragging them onto it. So if I drag this wine bottle, then now I have a wine bottle in my scene. I'll lower this again a little. There we go. and the wine bottle becomes a little bit bigger. There is also a material library here, which contains all the materials present by default, as well as any you might create yourself. And once again, you can create your own materials in your own library, so you don't have to stick to the iC3D material library. You can create your own library where you create your own custom materials, and you can use those. So if I want this bottle to not be green glass, but to be, let's choose something, painted metal red, for example, I would have to select my bottle, and I can say now this is painted metal instead of dark green glass. And that's how easy it is to add materials. If I want this painted metal to not be red, but I want it to be different, I can go to the material editor. I can change the reflection, the shininess, the transparency of this material to edit it, to create my own materials. I can save them and then use them later on. That is how you create your own materials to use. I'll be using this bottle for my further explanation of what iC3D can do. So on the left, we see in the object editor, we have the model, which is the entire bottle, but we have two parts of that model. We have the metal foil matte red that is being used for the bottle cap, and we have the dark green that is being used for the glass. On the right, we can see we have the label settings, special effects, layers, lighting, and transform. All of these can be used to edit this bottle to your liking to make it your own. So let's go to labels. Of course, I don't have a label yet. So let's create a label. I can select my bottle. I can say add label. We'll call this wine label. We can give it its size. So let's make this 100 by 100 millimeters. And we can say on which part of the bottle we want this label to work. Using labels here is very interesting because it actually uses the mesh of the 3D object to shape the label specifically. So we can use only the bottle mesh is being included here. So the label will not shape itself to the shrink cap. If I say OK, we will get a square white label on the bottle. I can select my label and I can move it around, simple as that. And you can see it shapes to the bottle. So it moves over the mesh and it realistically shapes how that sticker would shape when it is being put on that part of the bottle. And we can have a look at the label. If it is on the place we want it to be, then good. Now, of course, we don't just want this to be a white label. Well, there's multiple ways to add your own art to the label. One of the most interesting ways to do this is its direct connection to Adobe Illustrator, which is probably being used to create your labels today anyway. So I have this button here, connect to Illustrator. I have my label selected and I can click the Illustrator link. Now I will have to open my Illustrator and there we go. We get a white square the size of my label. On the right here, I have my iC3D renderer module. This is a plugin that gets installed on your most recent version of Adobe Illustrator when you install iC3D. You can click the update button at any time, and then your artwork on your label will be directly updated in iC3D the way you want it to be. So let's just put some art on here, shall we? So we have this nice wine logo. Now I'm already going to betray something I'm going to do later. So you can see this yellow color here. If I click that, that is not just a yellow, it is actually a spot color. So if I look at that spot color, the spot color is called gold. And I have a second spot color called gold emboss, and that is being used in these letters here at the bottom, gold emboss. I am going to use these later on in iC3D. So I have my artwork placed on the file, and I can click Update Now. You can see it's updating, and now it's up to date. Now, if we go back to iC3D, ta-da, the label is on the bottle directly there. Now, of course, I said I was going to show you the spot colors. So let's go to Layers. in layers, right now there's two layers. There's the cutout and there's the artwork. These are based on the shape of the label in Illustrator as well. I can click the star icon over here to add a special effects layer. I get this spot effect, and it detects the spot colors that are present in the Illustrator document. It would also work with PDFs. If you use a PDF for your artwork and the PDF has spot colors, that will work as well. It detects the two spot colors, gold and gold embossed. I will select gold, and I will call this shiny gold foil. That is the effect name I'm going to use for that. Now, of course, I have to select the material I want to use for that. These are the same materials that are present here at the bottom, and I will use metal gold chrome. There we go. Now, there are some more effects here. You can use effect as an opaque white to make sure that in your transparent packaging, you have an opaque white for spot color, or you can have it as a cutout. Then I will click OK. You will see the effect layer is added, and it will be updated here in a second. And then that gold part of the label will be all shiny gold. In the meantime, I can already start the embossing, I suppose. So we will also use the gold emboss. So there we go, it's loading in. There we go, it's all shiny gold now. Embossed gold foil, the same thing. And I will use the same metal gold chrome here, but I will edit it a little afterwards. So we will give it a second to load into the text. Right now, it will just be the same effect we have over here. Oh. The same shiny effect we see on the top will be added to the text here at the bottom. There we go. And it's in there. Now it's just very flat. I want to make it a little bit more special. So I'll go to the edit module for that material. This is the material editor again. We've seen this before when I tried to change the painted metal red. We have a bump depth slider in here. I can slide this up to a certain point. Let's make it somewhere around 40. There we go. I will see in the text, the effect is being changed, and now it looks all bumpy. I will say save. There we go, it's saved now, and we have the 3D effect in this text. Now, this isn't actual 3D, it's just a 3D look. So from the front, it looks like bumps. If we turn it like this, it's just flat. So it's just a visual effect we add to the bottle. Of course, if we make our pack shot like this, nobody can tell that it's not a 3D effect, that it's just like visual. Okay, now there's something else that's pretty cool about this bottle. If I select the bottle, I can actually fill it with the wine. So we can, of course, wine isn't white, it's the red wine. So let's change the color of that fluid. Let's make it something like that. And now I can also change the specular because wine wouldn't specular is so white. So let's make that maybe this color. There we go. And now our bottle has wine in it. I can get that bottle a bit fuller because, of course, we don't want our wine bottle to be empty. So I'll fill it up. There we go. Now our wine bottle is nice and filled with red wine. And we have our nice label with its shiny gold foil and the embossed gold here. Now, of course, you can go as far as you want with these effects as long as you have spot colors for it. Next, let's have a look at our lighting. Let's change this. I like to see this for light effects. That's nice. I'll change the top of this to white and the bottom as well, and I'll give it a bit of shadow. Then we have a studio effect where there we go. Let's make a shadow. I'll use this one. And then we can see the shadows are being positioned where we want them to be. And we have the lights positioned where we want them to be. So we can move the room around. I can put this back on default. There we go. You can see the reflections of the room in there. This is the room. Of course, this is just a default image. You can add any image there that you want to have. So if you don't want to use this room, you can create your own 360 image and you can actually add that in there. This is also the way that you would work if you want to have the your own like neighborhood shop in there. If you want to add your own supermarket, you can do that there. Okay, so let's say this is the way we want the shadow to look. We want the light to look, and we can make a pack shot of that, and we can have that as a photograph. Now, this render doesn't look very spectacular, but that's because it's a preview way of looking at the product. So right now, this is just a preview. That's why it doesn't look very great. We actually have multiple ways of this. The actual preview is this is updating because there we go, where we changed the render mode. And now it should look even less spectacular. See, even the effect for the wine has changed a bit. This is the least hard way for your graphics card to keep up with what you're doing. The actual ray tracing is a pretty harsh calculation to make, and that's actually requires some time. So using that while you work wouldn't be very effective. So we work with a preview render mode and you can then create your own race traced image afterwards. So if I go to the race renderer here, then I get this window. I will just place here. I can choose how many samples I want, and I can start. The more samples, the more times we let photons bounce around our virtual environment, and the more detail we will see in the packaging. So this is what you get with 32 samples. If I move it around, it re-renders. I can change this to 128, and I will get a more detailed render, but it will take longer to render as well. You can see it also senses the inside of the bottle here. Now, this fill is also just a visual effect fill for your preview, so it doesn't show up in the ray trace because the liquid isn't actually there. There is another way to create the liquids using something in the template library called interior and fill, and then the liquid will actually show up in this render as well. You can see the difference between this and that. In the top here in the glass, this is actually a way nicer render than you would get from your preview. Now I've shown you through how to use the already present items from iC3D, the assets you already have, to just create something basic like this wine bottle and use the spot colors for special effects in your labels. I want to show you one more module that we have in iC3D for a different kind of packaging. So let's create a new file. I will not save this one. We're back to our empty field, and I'll use a carton fold-up. So I'll open that. It went over here. There we are. This is a different way to do packaging. So I have my carton template. Now you can start creating your carton based on a die line you have. So I'll click Import Die Line. I'll go find where I kept my die line. So I'll go to test file. I have a packaging somewhere in here. There we go. I'll open that. You can see it detects all the different spot colors I have present in my packaging. So I do not want to use the art, the barcode, or the background when I'm importing this. Right now, you want to select the structural lines that you need for your packaging to be cut and folded. So I have my crease and my cut selected. I'll press OK. You can see it detected the spot colors that are present in my file. It has a red spot color that I use for cut lines, has a blue spot color that I use for fold lines. So it knows what these colors are. I can just press assign, and it will already assign the correct line types to my packaging here in the import. If your file isn't as perfect as my packaging file is for this demonstration, then you can just select lines and you can make them a cut line, you can make them a fold line. Now I will split the lines here. That is used to remove duplicates to make sure that there is only one line everywhere and that the lines all connect. This is a very useful feature when you have packaging design that isn't completely perfect. So let's just let that do its job. And then I can click generate model here, and we will see what the carton looks like. Here you can also choose the substrate you're using. So right now I have a flute of 600 microns. You can choose very thick cardboard. You can choose very thin cardboard. I chose this thin cardboard because this is just a folding carton box. This will determine the inside of your box, the thickness of your carton, and the outside of your box. So it's a flute white of this thickness. And there we are. Now we have our cardboard box in here, and I can add this model to the scene. I can also already decide what I want the angles to be folded at. So let's say I know all my folding lines will be folded at 90-degree angles. I already know that. So let's just select my folding lines. There we go. Oh, that one too, and that one too. And I will already decide all these will have to be folded at 90 degrees. So I'll say that. And we can see now the box has already been folded at 90 degrees in this cardboard type. Now I can add that model to the scene. We can see the model has been added, and I can add my design to it. So I don't have to use the Illustrator link to add packaging. I can actually say I want to use the iC3D PDF editor for that. So now you can see that my Illustrator buttons have vanished, and now I have these PDF buttons instead. I can say I want to open a PDF for this, and I have my PDF files with my packaging that I just used to create the box. So let's say I use this one, open. Let's see what that does. And this will be added to the design. It appeared in the wrong spot. So that means my artwork file isn't perfect for this box. So I might have to use there we go. We have this file here. I want to use only the art layers. So I'll have to use these layers, and I might want to crop this a little bit so it only goes to these lines. So I should have prepared this before, and then it would have appeared correctly. But you can add your data from PDFs if you have the correct PDFs. So that's two different workflows you have here. Of course, we can still try to use the bag workflow as well. So we have the shaped bag. That's another different type of packaging, the third major type. This is now a chocolate bar. You can change the shape for the bar. You can change the sizes, so it doesn't have to be this small. You can actually make it a really big bag, and then you can create that as well. This has a lot of options, so you have a lot of control over what this packaging will look like.